All right, we are live. So welcome back to DApp University. So we got a lot to talk about in our live stream today. This is a big week for crypto, and you need to watch out for several things that we're going to detail in our stream today. So my normal camera setup, if you've been watching these streams, is not working properly. So I'm kind of going with my backup webcam here. Thanks everybody for your patience. We'll hopefully get these technical issues resolved, but still want to jump on today, make sure we've got a good stream. So we're gonna talk about that, what you need to watch out for, look at a lot of other news updates that have happened in the space since our live stream yesterday. Again, we do these live streams Monday through Friday on this channel. Just turn on notifications, subscribe. You're gonna find out about those whenever we go live. We're gonna answer some of your questions and a lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. We start today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Automatic Beats. Let's see. Cryptify. Welcome. All right, so let's jump into this. So let's talk about some really important stuff you need to watch out for in the crypto space this coming week. All right. So yesterday, we're going to start off first and foremost with what happened with the EU vote, all right, for the Parliament Committee about proof of work for Bitcoin and why this is important and why we're not totally out of the woods with this thing yet. So quick recap is yesterday we talked about basically this proposal talking about getting rid of Bitcoin, essentially proof of work mining cryptocurrencies, which include Bitcoin, in the EU, okay, and how that could be disastrous for the entire crypto space. Yesterday, we actually saw live on stream how the proposal looked like it failed. Okay, we actually covered that in real time, which is pretty nuts. You can see all the press outlets are talking about this, but we're not completely out of the woods yet with this. All right. There is a small chance, let's say a small chance, that this could actually still pass. Okay, so let's look at some updates on that here. We're gonna look at that. We're gonna look at what's going on with the with several other things in the space. But I want to keep you updated on this because we did talk about this yesterday, and this was a major point, and you got to keep watching out for it. So, so an important update: the timeline for the next steps on regulation is now clear. Again, this is for the classification of the status of Bitcoin, whether we're going to ban proof of work mining or not. So the timeline for the next steps, the regulation is now clear. I mentioned already that there is one last option, how losing minority could bring the proof of work ban back to the table. So basically, there could be a minority who did not get the majority vote yesterday, who could get this back into the pipeline, and that can make this another risk. And here's how it could happen. So basically, yesterday the committee voted in favor of entering the trilogue negotiations with the EU Commission and Council based on the final regulation draft. The mandate to enter the next steps will be announced in a plenary session on March 24th. Okay. Let's see, I lost my place here. See, what are the odds of it happening? So theoretically, the losing groups could easily reach the threshold to move the vote to the plenary. So, however, I think it's unlikely to happen for two reasons. Okay, so the first reason is there's no indication that the vote in the plenary would turn out differently. Second, that would delay the adoption of the entire MiCA regulation, also the parallel TFR regulation that introduces AML rules for crypto transfers. The losing groups have zero interest in delaying introduction of consumer protection and AML rules for a growing crypto market, especially since the war in Ukraine. However, this press release shows how deeply disappointed they are with the current outcomes. So all in all, there's no confirmed evidence to date that the losing groups are seeking to request a plenary vote. But this will definitely, we'll know for sure on March 23rd, 24th. So he'll share an update on that, of course. So we're not completely out of the woods with this thing yet. But it does look like it's unlikely, but it could be back on the table. And that's something that you also have to keep in consideration. This is a very similar type of thing when we saw the infrastructure bill coming into the United States, where, I mean, technically we're still not even out of the woods on that type of thing yet. We've seen some sort of like, oh, I promise I'm not going to do anything in terms of what's going to happen to, different participants in crypto. Besides, basically, there's some language in the infrastructure bill in the United States talking about how potentially developers, validators, people who participate in crypto would have to comply with burdensome tax regulations that essentially prevent them from operating crypto. But we have some language we have some spoken intent that, oh, we're not going to enforce that type of stuff on those people. But it's like, yeah, we're not totally out of the woods with that either. But feeling pretty good. Like the likelihood is low that something really, really bad would come out of that. So similar type of thing for this. Okay, looks like it's not going to be a massive issue, but we're not totally out of the woods. So another big thing that I want to talk about this week is definitely what's going on with the Fed meeting. Okay, so the Fed Reserve meets this week. Right, it's a 2-day meeting. And people have been eyeing this basically since the beginning of the year because it's likely going to set the tone for the coming months in the just broader markets. Okay. And what I think a lot of people are expecting out of this meeting are essentially an interest rate hike. All right. So why is this important? Well, we've seen low rates for a long time. And basically, rates have people rates change people's appetite for risk in a lot of ways. Okay, because rates essentially are what going to drive people's ability to borrow money. Okay, use leverage, use debt, and essentially that inflates prices. Not the only thing that inflates prices, right? But it's a factor that inflates asset prices in the economy. Okay. Housing prices, anything where you're borrowing money to buy something, that always increases the purchase price because it's cheaper money to do it. And there's also people who use that as leverage. Okay. So, people have long thought that, basically raising interest rates are going to affect asset prices. I mean, the history kind of tells us that. Okay. And, people have been saying for a long time, hey, they're not going to keep rates low forever. And there's likely going to see a rate hike soon. And people's anticipation is that we're going to see a rate hike, this week. Now, the question is, how much of a rate hike is it going to be? And, is that going to meet people's expectations? Because a lot of people out there that argue that essentially, that sort of the rate hike that people expect is quote unquote priced in, right? That all the price correction that we've seen in the markets over the past, few months has largely been from a few factors. One of the main factors being the expectation that the Federal Reserve is going to raise the interest rates. And we sort of have an expectation of what we think it's going to be. So that's something to watch out for, definitely for sure this week, because if that defies people's expectations in any way, it could have an effect on how the next, several weeks and even months play out. Okay. Some possible scenarios there are that there's no rate hike. Okay, I think it's probably a less likely scenario, but there's no rate hike. That could make people, more optimistic in the short term, but also can make people kind of bears, thinking, well, if there's no rate hike now, maybe there's bigger rate hikes later. Now, another possibility is that there's like a double rate hike, where essentially the hike people think is going to happen, which is a quarter basis point. Maybe it's double what they expect, and then that would, I think, make people a little more fearful than they are now. Okay. So that's definitely a big thing to look out for. This meeting is a 2-day meeting. I believe it starts today and ends tomorrow. So we should know. So following the conclusion of Wednesday of its 2-day meeting. And so this is also amidst everything that's going on with the geopolitical crisis. We've got inflation going on like crazy. And so this is a pretty important thing for setting the tone for how people are going to think about this space over the next, coming weeks and months.
Yeah, absolutely right. Inflation's at about 7.9% right now, as you said. It's largely contingent on what's happening with Ukraine and ultimately how they decide the best approach for taking care of the dollar is. But we're sitting on the edge of our seat. We're waiting very patiently. We'll see the news. Trust me, you'll hear it everywhere because this affects everyone in the economy, stock markets, obviously crypto, and of course that is global.
Yeah, totally. There's lots of different factors going on for sure. So another big piece of information I want to talk about that's good for the space, regardless of what's going on with the sort of macro scene, is basically the next step that's going forward for the Ethereum 2.0 merge, okay? Because this is a pretty critical item on the roadmap. So the preps for the merge with the launch of the Kiln testnet, all right? So I saw it floating around YouTube, Ethereum core devs live stream where they're actually like on the call prepping for this thing. So the final Ethereum public testnet called Kiln has been launched, all right? So Kiln is currently operating in a proof of work testing environment. This week, Kiln will complete the testing merge. So what is this and why is it important? So basically, we're on this multi-phase roadmap for Ethereum 2.0. Okay, you've got, ETH 1.0, which is what everybody uses now. And then you got the second Ethereum 2.0 blockchain over here. And it's getting merged back into ETH 1.0 because this one runs proof of stake, the new one, and then the old one, which is what you use now, runs proof of work. And so this is a really challenging thing because it's sort of like fixing the plane while it's flying. Okay, you got a bunch of people on board of an aircraft, and you have to like literally build on a new engine, like while it has to maintain, liftoff, and we got to keep everybody alive and safe inside that airplane. And so it's an incredibly high stakes technical task. And so it has to go through all these really important phases in order to like make that happen. Okay. And so one thing that one really critical part of this is doing this test network. So we have a test network out there right now where basically you've got a test network that's running proof of work right now. All right. And then essentially you've got a proof of stake network where they're going to just like merge this in, kind of run that simulation. And this is a huge critical step before we get to this. So why is this important to watch? Well, if there's any really major issues, okay, with this, this could mean further delays for ETH 2.0 merge. All right. That's another reason this is big and important. The merge is critical for ETH 2.0. We've seen several sort of upsets in the timeline for that. Okay, if you've been in the space for a long time at all, you know that the Ethereum 2.0 has been a long anticipated event and has not, arrived yet. A lot of people thought it was going to happen, shortly after, in 2018 or something like that. And then, expectations getting pushed back. People saying, hey, when's it ever going to get here? And now people are saying Ethereum too slow, it's too expensive, doesn't have time to sit here and do all this stuff, right? We've got to actually ship this thing. Well, a couple things to think about there. One, this is a really insanely harder problem to solve in the way that Ethereum's trying to solve it, like I was talking about, fixing the plane while it's flying. But number two is, you're right. We do need to get this thing out there. But you have to counter that with what I'm saying over here, which is you don't want to push it out and then something goes wrong, because that could be game over. Okay. That's the last thing that you want. You want everything done safe and sound. You want the billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars on top that's locked on top of Ethereum to be safe and sound. You want everybody's wallets to be safe and sound. You want the ETH price to be safe and sound based on the perception of this type of event. So that's why it has to go through this rigorous testing and rigorous development. A lot of people just think that, blockchain is just like an app. You know what I mean? Like you got this mobile app on your phone and it updates all the time. You know what I mean? Maybe you've got like a social media app like Instagram. Oh, Instagram shipped stories this week, and now I can, put dog filters on my face and do all this type of stuff. Like that's cool. That's all hard stuff too. All software is hard to build. Blockchain software is exponentially harder to build to get it right, because of the high stakes risk. You can't just ship a bug and then patch it, right? Like it's got to be rock solid, especially about the client level. And so that's a big item on the roadmap this week. That's going to set the tone for what's going to happen in the Ethereum space over the coming months, likely. Okay, definitely subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. I've got a video coming out this week that's talking about ETH 2.0 and the timeline that I expect for that to happen. So yeah, this is a big thing to watch out for this week too.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Great there. It's actually really fun to watch because I follow as many developers as I can on Twitter, right? And it's really fun to watch everyone just absolutely freaking out about this the testnet itself. I went ahead and in the chat, I linked some useful tools for the testnet itself. So if you're a developer, you're looking to code or help out and test this out, then just pay attention to that chat. There's some tools there if you haven't already seen that link elsewhere. It's really awesome to watch the memes that are floating around, everyone talking about it, chatting about it, being hyped about it. It's really exciting because we're just that much closer. We're super close to the merge, and you can just feel it. It's palpable.
Yeah, totally. Lee says it's missing his stand-up desk. Yeah, I've had to start standing up. Had a little back pain, so I was having to change my setup here. I've always been at a standing desk. It's just I have been sitting a lot, and that's my problem. So let's see here. Didn't ETH 2017 hard fork equals ETH Classic? Yes, that was post DAO exploit or hack, whatever you want to call it. So that's a really important part of Ethereum's history. Well, actually, in 2017, and it was not in 2017. It was before that. I think it was 20. Hold on, let's see. DAO hack date. I think it was June 17th, 2016. I was thinking it was summer 2016. Sometimes the years kind of run together because it's been so long.
Right.
But yeah. But 2016 is when it was. Basically, the DAO was an early project on top of Ethereum. Some people forget how long Ethereum's been around and what it all it's been through. And basically, it's not a decentralized autonomous organization. It's like it was called the DAO. It was like an early project, and it had a massive hack. Okay, and I think it was like $50 million. Let me see here. I think it was $50 million. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how much it was. Yeah, $50 million hack. I mean, it's kind of funny now because we've had bigger ones than that since then, but that was such an early project when people were kind of betting on whether Ethereum was going to be successful or not. There's a lot of people who were super skeptical about it in the early days. All right. And then once the DAO hack happened, people thought ETH was just dead. Of course, there was some intervention involved in forking the chain. And that was sort of where we had a split in philosophy over, how the chain should run. And that's where you sort of get Ethereum Classic from versus the Ethereum that people know and use today. That's the number 2 market cap cryptocurrency. I'm not saying people don't use Ethereum Classic. I'm just mean like the one that most people are using is Ethereum. So ETH 2.0 date. So check out that video that come out this week. I'm going to talk about when I think ETH 2.0 is going to come out.
I have a quick question, and pardon me if you don't know the answer here. It's totally all right. It's been quite some time. I guess I'm just kind of wondering, like, why people would use Ethereum Classic, right? Like, all the platforms are based on ETH, like the current version of ETH. Like, beyond just simple price, number goes up, number goes down. Would there be any kind of like practical reason to utilize ETH Classic?
There's lots of philosophical reasons why people use it over Ethereum. I don't know that that's a majority opinion on why people use it. I think that was like sort of the initial thing, but there's also this benefit of just having multiple chains where you can do multiple things, or multiple coins have a chance of it going up, or multiple apps can be, used to run through a hype cycle of new launches and forks and all that type of stuff. And that's kind of what's happening with the multi-chain world right now anyway. And that was definitely a thing. But aside from that, it's mostly just like philosophical reasons why you sort of have this hardcore ETH Classic community. That's my read on the space. I don't really use it. That's
okay. Yeah, no, that was clear. That was succinct. Diversity is king here. So, they love it. They love it.
Let's see here. Would be more affordable to publish there? I guess she means in terms of the gas fees. Yeah, I mean, affordability is kind of a catch-22, right? It's sort of like saying, I'm gonna do something, but because it's cheap, may not necessarily be the best reason to do it. Because when I'm out, with a blockchain, where you go is a permanent decision. It's not like you could just easily move something from one thing to another. You can expand to another chain or another environment, but you can't really migrate from one chain to another without leaving something else behind in all your immutable history. So, don't forget that prices are a reflection of demand, especially with fees. If there was not an insane amount of demand for Ethereum and the Ethereum block space, then the fees would not be high. And, a lot of the competing layer ones in the space, they're like, oh, we got cheap fees. Like, yeah, you got cheap fees for now until, stuff really blows up. All right. And I'm not going to get into the weeds and all this types of stuff about, all the details. I've got plenty of videos kind of talking about that. But yeah. So, the prices are a reflection of demand. And it's sort of like saying, like, hey, New York is too expensive. Nobody's going to live there. Well, New York is expensive because people want to live there. There's only so many places to live. Same thing with like the block space for the Ethereum network. Sure, you could go, deploy it somewhere else. But a lot of the really high value long-term projects are making that choice for a reason. Now, I'm not saying we're not getting lots of adoption in other chains. Not what I'm saying, but the person asked the question like, hey, would it be cheaper to deploy Ethereum Classic? It's like, well, it may not be the best call because who's going to use it? There will be people, right? But if you want more people, what are you doing? Then maybe the expense makes the cost, or makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's a great question as well.
Like a utility layer for digital forensics. That's a good question. I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Above Realty asks ETH 2.0 date. I can take that one. No one knows. There's no official answer. It's all speculation at this point. The testnet, the Kiln testnet that we just covered, that's a really clear indicator of like how close we are, since it's the last testnet before the actual merge itself. But there's no official date. Speculatively, a lot of people on Twitter, I'm
actually waiting this in the video for tomorrow. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah, watch the video. Yeah. So there is some speculation on the date. I'm gonna weigh in totally on all that in that video tomorrow. So check it out.
There we go.
So let's see here. Let's see here. So Watch is going to give some flash news updates here. We got several things that have popped off in the news. I'll let him go through those real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, flash news. Going to go through just machine gun these. So first up, so FTX is starting a crypto exchange. It's got approved for a crypto exchange in Dubai. So that's pretty fun. Former CEO of Disney from 2005 to 2020, his name's Bob Iger, joins the board of a metaverse project called Genies. So that's pretty cool. Skechers has opened up a shop in Decentraland. They're going to offer like shoes and apparel, etc. But they have joined. This one's interesting. Figment and Unslashed Finance form a AAA crypto insurance partnership. So seeing those two work hand in hand. Figment's more for institutionals, clients. Unslashed a bit for smaller. So that's really awesome. That's really great. Magic Eden, which is a Solana NFT marketplace, has raised $27 million for its Series A. Important point here, it's 90% of the NFT volume on Solana occurs through Magic Eden. So it's a pretty big number. Crypto.com has announced its first stage of the U.S. launch. So despite all the commercials that we see in the stadiums, etc., they're actually about to arrive in the U.S. It's pretty cool. It's been about 2 years, guys, now since the March 2020 crash. Just want a little anniversary date, for better or for worse, if you will. So 2 years, man. Like we were talking about earlier, Greg. The time goes by fast, right? A third of surveyed Filipinos would quit their job to go full-time play to earn. And this was conducted by the NFT studio Balthazar. Great name. And last but not least, this is a community submission from Paul Falanga. DraftKings is launching March Madness themed NFTs, and its long-term vision is to integrate with Polygon and launch a sports theme GameFi game. So pretty cool. Thanks, Paul.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. So last thing that I want to talk about is pretty big. I meant to bring this up yesterday in the stream, but we got so preoccupied with what's going on with the parliament vote. Was this so basically essentially the owners of a Bored Ape Yacht Club acquired the intellectual property for both CryptoPunks and Meebits. All right, so this is from Larva Labs, the creators of CryptoPunks, and this is a pretty big deal. Okay, I actually saw a comment on this that was kind of funny. Somebody saying like, "Yo, how did this happen? Like they sold CryptoPunks twice. Like they sold all the actual NFTs, and then they sold all the rights to the NFTs. But now they're owned basically by the group that owns Bored Apes, and so this is a big deal. So that whole sort of enterprise is now kind of under the same umbrella. Of course, Bored Apes have become one of the most popular NFT collections that just rose to prominence within the last really year or so. Okay. CryptoPunks is sort of an OG collection that's been around for a long time, even predates the ERC 721 standard that everybody uses for NFTs. And now the two have essentially become one in terms of ownership. So this is a big deal.
Yeah, a huge deal. When all is said and done, like you said, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is the biggest, if not like most well-known project, I'd say almost in all of crypto at this point. At least that's how it feels. Don't quote me on that one. But very large. I mean, not only did that immediately send trading volumes up for those in projects, but by restoring those property rights for all the NFT owners, you're then able to go ahead and commercialize your own NFT, which was kind of one of like the promising, one of the big promises that was made for NFTs for the Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks and etc. So it's really cool to see Yuga Labs pick them up and allow the punks to be able to commercialize their own product. A couple stats here. So looks like Yuga Labs is also acquiring 400 Bored Ape Yacht Club and 1,700 Meebits as part of this deal. And to date, the CryptoPunks have 2.2 billion in traded volume, so it's pretty big. Or excuse me, the Yuga Labs acquired 400 punks, not Bored Ape Yacht Club. Sorry about that. So yeah, no, this is huge. This is really big news for the NFT community, for all those owners. You now have your rights back. So freedom, you gotta love it.
Yeah, totally. All right, everybody. That's all we got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. They'll help these videos out so the more people learn about blockchain. And if you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty. How can you get started today? Well, you can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. Just put out a new one last week. Gonna put out another one this week. Another one the week after that. Okay. If you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I should become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.